second grade. Today is day 7, Punctuating Dialogue. Our objective is I can use correct dialogue punctuation when I punctuate dialogue with a tag at the end. Just like you practiced the last 2 cycles, we're going to look at a master text. The one we're going to look at is on page 46, and it's from the story Angel Child, Dragon Child. We're only going to use the top portion today, so I drew a line going across where I know I'm going to stop. You can do that too. Okay, so I'm going to be a detective and I'm going to look for dialogue. Remember, I'm going to look for the quotation marks and I'm going to underline the parts that the person is saying. We can't have this fighting. You two have to help each other. I see a comma and I see a quotation mark, but I noticed the story didn't start with one. I think that might be a mistake because I know quotation marks come in pairs. So I'm just gonna add them and then I'll circle it. And then I'm gonna underline the parts the person is speaking. Ordered the principal. He pointed at me. Oh, I see a quotation mark. Oh, wow. You need to speak to Raymond. Use our words. Tell him about Vietnam. And I see quotation mark here. And I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna underline the parts that people are speaking. Raymond glared. Okay, so there's a couple more quotations of people saying dialogue. I'm gonna stop there and then you are going to do the rest to this line on your own. After you're done with that, you're going to follow my lead, punctuating dialogue. Now, this is the same type of page you've had in the last 2 cycles. So you're going to get really strong at this. I'm going to think back to my story, and I'm going to work all the way to problem 4 today. And I'm going to think back to my story. And I'm going to look for a dialogue that has a quotation or an exclamation mark or a question mark. And the example is the same as before. I love ice cream. And that one happens to end in a exclamation mark. Now I might look back at my story sketch to get an idea of dialogue that ends in these punctuations. But you know what? I also know that I added some dialogue to my personal narrative draft, but I don't think I did it correctly. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to look. I'm just going to kind of read it quickly to myself. Ooh, I found one. I noticed I said, what was that? I wondered. I noticed I didn't even put a question mark here. So I think I'm going to correct this today. So I'm going to write my dialogue from my story here so I don't forget. And I know that it's a question, so I should end it in a question mark. What was that? Okay. And the next one, I'm looking for one that ends in a period. And our example is the same as before. I read for an hour. I think I had one that in my draft too that also ended in a period. I remember at the end of the story, I wanted Will to say, I think we should leave. And I noticed I wrote it. That's when Will said, we should leave. I think I can change this to, I think we should leave. I think we should leave. Period. Okay, so now I'm going to be adding the quotation marks. It's the same one with an exclamation mark or a question mark. I'm going to circle the quotation marks and I'm underlining the dialogue. I love ice cream, she said. Okay, so now I'm going to take what was that and I'm going to tag it at the end, just like the example. So I'm going to write, and I remember I said I wondered, what was that? I wondered. Period at the end of that too. So now I'm going to add my quotation marks. Okay, so I've done 3. Now let's go ahead and do one that ends in a period. I think we should leave. I remember that's what Will said. So I'm gonna write, let me do that a little neater. I'm just gonna erase and try again. I think we should leave. Oh, you know what? I forgot to do this step. And that made me think that I remember it doesn't end in a period anymore. Instead of a period, it's this comma. So I'm going to make sure I turn a period into the period that's up here into a comma. Will said. And don't want to forget to add my quotation marks. So the quotation mark is going to come after the comma. Okay. So now I know I put these in the story, but I didn't do them correctly. So I'm going to go and I'm going to edit mine to add this in the way that I want them. So I noticed I had, what was that at the bottom of this page? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw an arrow where I'm going to add it. And I'm going to make sure I add my quotation marks and my tag the correct way. What was that? Question mark, and then my quotation marks. I wondered. So make sure I add a period at the end of that too. And what I can do is I can just cross this out. Instead of that being here, I know when I get to my final copy, I'm going to put that one in instead. I can do the same thing where I wrote, I think we should leave, Will said. So I want to change what I had there. In the original, I said, that's when Will said we should leave. So I'm going to draw my arrow again. And I'm going to put what I wrote on my copy. I think we should leave. And I remember it's not a period anymore. It's going to be a comma. And it comes before the quotation marks. And then I got to add my tag. Will said. And then since I edited this, I changed it. I'm going to cross out this part so I know that I'm going to write this version on my final copy. All right, second grade. So first, you're going to finish being a detective to find the dialogue until you get to this line on my paper. Then you are going to do parts 1, 2, 3, and 4. You have the examples here. You're going to use dialogue from your own story. Just like me, you might have already added your dialogue to your story, and now is the time to edit it and make sure it's done the way you like it and it's done correctly. So you can be like me and go back to your story and see if you need to change it or want to change it to make it sound better. All right, go ahead and get started.